I enjoyed it so much, and I also enjoyed going into depth so much on it that to me it didn't hit me that uh, like I could be a different person altogether. And I
Shankar,
think Ashwin,
I'll
yeah,
just ask
yeah,
something, right?
yeah.
I know, like, I think pretty much all your audience know that you are a introverted person, right, by nature. Do you think not
Mm.
taking or not getting into a managerial role has something to do with the type of person you are?
I would say the biggest red flag is not understanding or not being able to relate to what you bring to the table or what you like doing, right? Like as an employee, if your manager does not know where your strengths are or where your interests are, they may not be able to utilize you to the best possible way.
Hello, boomers. Welcome to another episode of OK Boomer. Hi, Shankar. Hi, Alien. Hi, Body. We have done a couple of episodes published. We have had decent traction, I feel. What are your thoughts? How do you feel? How's the Josh?
Feels good to know that people are interested in what we have to say. We didn't think that as many people would actually watch the first two episodes when we actually started doing this, right? So feels good to know.
Yeah, I think, see, a lot of conversations are not something that it's rocket science, right? I think we brought our WhatsApp conversations into a very public forum. That is literally what it is. But just that diverse experience with us here, I think it's just good to share, even if a couple of people just get some insights into work life and how things work, how products are built, how companies function, what's the culture like. If someone can benefit, that's what it is. And yeah, thanks to everyone for the interest and sharing good amount of feedback and stuff.
Today, we want to bring up another discussion that's very prevalent in tech companies, especially if you're in your mid 20s or late 20s. The path of IC versus the path of people manager. And interestingly enough, here also we have a very diverse group. Ashwin, who's a people manager, I believe, Body, who's an IC, and Shankar, who's still weighing his options or he has gone back and forth, still trying to figure out what is best. And I think that is going to lead to very interesting and contrasting viewpoints. Ashwin, why don't you take a stab first?
Yeah, sure. I think one thing we'll add is for people who don't know yet, IC is individual contributor. I just want to kind of lay the lantern. And Body is, I think, manager who turned into IC. Shankar is still weighing options. But yeah, see, I think this is becoming a manager. Like everyone who joins into the company or whatever their work life, whenever they enter, I think enter as an individual contributor, right? No matter, except for like very few prodigies who maybe start a company when like you study. I think everyone enters as an individual contributor, and there is one pivotal moment. It can be both with life and work. Like when you become a manager, it could be life changing, it could be career changing decision that you would take. I think as an individual, you will have to nail that timing. We'll talk about the traits and good and bad and what you will want to kind of know and everything. If you become a manager too early, like you might be set up for failure. If then you would also not want to wait too long if you're a very ambitious person, right? So you have to kind of nail the timing. That's the only thing. But my kind of school of thought is everybody is like should be a people person. Like if you're a manager or no, that's different. But even if you're an individual contributor, you will have to work with people. Even if you're a people manager, you'll have to make people work for the vision you believe in. We'll talk a couple of things in detail, but yeah, that the shift to program manager role will be career changing and life changing. What do you say, Shankar?
Yeah, in my case, I think I've been IC for like 8, 9 years now. So I think what I've realized is, I mean, I can only draw from my experiences. Like I'm a depth person. I think a lot of ICs like to do hands-on work, and they really like doing hands-on work. So one concern, at least I had, is uh, among many others, is will I actually enjoy doing non-hands-on work, right? Because for me, I feel rewarded mentally when I do hands-on, let's say, copywriting or product building or writing some marketing copy. I enjoyed it so much, and I also enjoyed going into depth so much on it that to me it didn't hit me that uh, like I could be a different person altogether and grow my skills like in a different way if I start managing people or start leading a team, right? So that's one primary reason I think I remained in the IC role for a long time. The other thing is I like to try things and build confidence. Like I get comfortable with things once I've tried it, played with it, or like built something, learned from it, etc. So one of the concerns I've always had is if I manage someone, but I haven't tried enough things in product, will I actually have the confidence to be able to like provide them with insights or the support they need to to grow their career, right? So I think those were two reasons why, because I was a depth person, because I really like to try things and get as much confidence as possible. It was hard for me to move into a managerial or a team role, right? Now, I think over the years, I've done like a lot of things in product. I've built like small features, uh, big features. I've worked on leading marketing for some of the things I've worked on, right? So from that perspective, I feel like I've built a lot of confidence, and right now the challenge I have is scaling my impact. Right, a lot of us have like a lot of ideas. So once we've started doing, let's say, marketing or sales, all of us are like teaming up with tons of ideas, but you're just one person, and you can't really like go after every idea that you have or every good idea that you have. Right, so at that point, you start thinking about how do I scale my impact? How do I ensure that I'm not like some of my ideas are not dying, and probably I can allow someone else to take uh, control of it, and take charge of those ideas, and probably like develop it in the way they like, right? So basically, I think I was a depth person, and right now I kind of feel like after having done IC work for quite some time, I kind of feel like I need to do. I need to grow beyond an IC role to scale my impact, right? So and to grow new skills. I think it also has something to do with ambition. So yeah, maybe we can come to that later.
I think
Shankar,
Ashwin has a
I'll
question.
I'll
Yeah,
just ask
yeah,
something, right?
yeah.
I know, like I think pretty much all your audience know that you are a introverted person, right, by nature. Do you think not
Mm.
taking or not getting into a managerial role has something to do with the type of person you are? Because you didn't kind of
Uh,
get into that aspect.
I actually had this thing to talk about. I mean, uh, I think one of the mistakes that I made earlier in my career is I labeled myself, or I assigned labels to myself based on how other people defined me. And I remained in that box for a long time. To me, I don't identify as an introvert anymore. I still feel like, I mean, there are situations where I'm not very comfortable and I don't open up quickly, but I don't put myself in that introvert box anymore. So I don't think introversion was as much like a reason as, let's say, I like doing hands-on work, and like maybe I didn't have as much confidence, right? Or I didn't have like uh, uh, yeah, I don't think introversion was the reason. Yeah, but now that you asked the
In
question, I also wanted to talk about like not having to label yourself, right? Yeah.
That's such an interesting question to ask, Ashwin, because we have the most extroverted person, not just in the call, but in most people's lives, Body, who has actively shied away from people management. I think that's a very interesting juxtaposition. Body, chime in with your thoughts, starting from extrovert bit, maybe.
I think it is a conscious decision. I don't think I've shied away from it. I've spent like as of now, I've spent half my career as an IC, half my career as a PM. It's it boils down to what energizes you, what you like doing, right? Like I can relate when Shankar says, he likes doing certain things, and those are the things that I also find appealing as an IC, right? Like there are problems to solve that you can go fix. So that is probably the biggest USP for me when I identify as an IC. The the larger question of moving into a PM role is, again, it's limited by number and scale, right? Like one person can only solve one problem, but if you have one person leading a team of 10, they can solve 10 or 11 problems, right? in that sense, if you have full control over uh, training and mentoring someone from scratch, I think you have better control over how your team is. But not everyone gets that opportunity to build a team from scratch, right? So you may inherit a team, you may have to work with team members that you may not have hired yourself, and everyone's learning style is different. Everyone's how they are receptive to how a manager operates is also very different. So given all those constraints, if you get lucky with a good team, I think the benefit or the impact that you can have as a people manager is a lot high. But it really comes down to you being able to give up certain things that you don't do yourself but you do through a team, right? So for me, that I think Shankar can also relate on this, which is the FOMO of not being able to do something yourself and waiting on somebody else to do it is high, right? Like we like getting our hands dirty and doing things, fixing problems, and uh, I think for me it's more about I will get restless. I will lose sleep over things if I'm not able to go fix something that somebody else may take longer time to fix. So that is a
I think, yeah.
behavioral trait that I think you need to adjust, and there is a threshold beyond which it will work.
Yeah, I think one thing I want to convey is I think good ICs like to learn new things. Uh, right? So the same like interest to learn new things. Like if you're like me and if you're wondering like should like if you're like me like what like if you're like me who I was a few years ago, and if you're wondering should you try the managerial role or not, probably it makes sense to be conscious about the fact that you like to learn and start thinking about the fact that even managing someone or leading someone is a learning experience, right? Just like how you like to, let's say, uh, learn like a new hands-on skill, this could be like a new skill that you could acquire and learn as well, right? So I think being conscious about the fact that this is something that you can practice and learn, although it comes with a much bigger responsibility, might help ease the transition. That's something I didn't know earlier, but now that I think about it, to me, it makes sense. Yeah.
I also have a question here, based on what the both of you said. I feel like for ISIS, it also comes from a place of little bit eccentricity, right? You're you don't want to relinquish control in a way. It might be good or the best way of doing things, but it comes from a place of rigidity. What if I delegate this to somebody and they might be doing in a different, equally good way, but in your mind, no, this is not how I would have done this. Therefore, it should not be good.
Yeah, I think so. I think even I've had that thought. And I think the way to like get over it is to be more kind to the person you're working with or the person you're trying to lead and show some empathy and believe that they'll get to like a level of perfection or standard that you expect over time and not like rigidly push those standards on day one when they start working with you. I think being kind, giving feedback, I think goes a long way in like getting them to like probably like improve their skills as well. And I think that is also rewarding in its own way. So I think from that perspective, yeah, being okay and okay to have that patience is important if you're thinking about like moving. Yeah. Ashwin.
Okay. See, one thing I'll tell you in a very complimentary way, right? The way at least I've had a good experience in the managerial role is I can't do few things. That much I know about myself, right? And like anyone, like, when you become a leader or a manager, like exactly opposite of what body and you were saying, right? Hey, you cannot let go of few things because you want to do it, because you are good at it and you know about it, but you will still be able to identify some problems that you would want to solve or do things, but you are not the best person to do it. You know about yourself, right? So when you have a team with you, that's where having different people and different complementary skills will actually help you solve those things. End of the day, you are solving those things for the company or wherever you are, but it's just that you not having that skill is not going to stop you from solving it. So that actually is the opposite way of whatever you guys just said. One more kind of simile I want to talk about is also, see, there is, I think, notion of managers getting a good pay, right? I think it's very prevalent in the industry that hey, you will have to become a manager to grow in career and to kind of earn good money. Versus if you stay as an IC, it's not looked at as a very ambitious career path, or it doesn't come across as you're getting good pay. So how does I know manager like in optics of it, it looks like a good pay, but what do you guys think from your experience and because you guys decided to stay in this path?
I think it varies from culture to like east versus west, right? So there is a social aspect to it. In India and the Eastern Hemisphere, I think there is some dignity and some pride associated to being somebody's boss versus being the best at something. Uh, from what I've observed and what I've seen, the West generally rewards ICs more than PMs. So a high level IC will get paid more than a high level PM. Uh, from what I know. But in India, again, it's the other problem, right? Like we have so many people, we have so many colleges, we have so many people graduating every year. So it's always easy to add more people to the problem and keep compounding it. So it's a trade-off of do you want one senior IC doing work faster and doing work better versus for the same or lesser salary, can you have 10 junior people doing less quality work in slower time? Like that is a real problem that I've seen in many companies, and I don't think India is mature enough societally, right? Like it comes down to your parents being able to brag about you. It comes down to putting stuff on wedding invitations and stuff where being an IC is not given the same level of importance or respect that being a PM has. And there is a workaround there. The word manager is enough because India is not mature enough to know the difference between managing something versus managing someone. So even if you're a customer success manager or a product manager, you may be an IC in real life, but people may think you're a manager.
Yeah, I'm a product marketing manager. That's what's going on my wedding invitation as well.
So
Actually, I've
don't
had
you think?
people congratulate me when I moved into a customer success manager role. They said, "Congrats on becoming a manager."
But these cultural nuances, right? Like how like a manager position is viewed versus like an IC position. Does it not hurt companies in the long run? Like there's a lot of talk also about like ICs moving into managerial roles and not doing well because of these cultural reasons. Do you think companies should like balance it or do something about it so that their culture or their business results are not adversely affected in the long run?
I think companies which have seen adding more people to the problem not working, and in today's scenario with restrictive headcounts and the economy deciding that, I think we are in the cusp of seeing more senior IC roles getting some visibility or more prevalence in India at least. Because today, when you want to get the work done right and the work done fast, you would prefer hiring a senior IC rather than having a manager hire a lot of junior team members and let that person manage and do it ineffectively or inefficiently. My bet, I'm just trying to foresee if this will happen.
Okay,
So I
okay.
want to
I
move
think
on
we'll.
to different theme in this. So we discussed how ICs have this insecurity of somebody else not doing the work in the way that they had in mind. And one of the criticisms of a lot of people becoming people managers is that's the safety net, right? So in times of layoffs or even pay, although body just mentioned it's not prevalent, it's obviously a safer alternative, at least in India, to be a people manager than being an IC, which means a lot of people who are not qualified to do that end up doing that. Um, so, my question would be, what is one trait that really is a green flag for somebody to be a people manager, and what is a red flag that somebody should not be one?
I think being able to care for people and being interested in their growth, I think that's like the biggest green flag. I mean, if you have that intent, I think that's a good managerial trait, and it shows up everywhere if you genuinely care if you genuinely care both about the person, their growth, yeah, it just shows up. Yeah, I think that's like the biggest trait. Ashwin, you know better, probably.
No, yeah, yeah, no, I pretty much agree because I tend to think of the managers that I look up to, right, and all the managers that I've had. You need to know your people, understand them, really get to know them well with their skills, what they want with work, what is happening what's happening with them personally. Um, it's a lot of knowing people and also a good amount of knowing what would uh, like make them be passionate about a problem. What problems would they be like energetic about in going and solving, and giving those to them, right? It's giving the right problem to the right people to go after and taking care of them. Just be there, just stand behind. It's like a conductor, right? Like everybody is just good at what they're doing, and you have to make sure conductor in an orchestra. So you have to make sure they are in sync with whatever is going on. Yeah, but I am with Shankar, like the managers that I look up to, like, all they've done is just stand by their people and like, support them in whatever they want to do.
I think good managers care for people. They understand their people really well. But I also feel like really great managers inspire. All right. So, like, I think when you work with a great manager, you are more interested in the problems that you're working on, and you really, I think your contributions to the company are like unmatched, or your potential is unlocked in a way that it may not have been before. So I think there's a tiny bit of difference between like caring for people and like making sure you match them to right roles versus like ensuring that you really inspire them and make them feel like you want to work, like people want to work with you, right? So I think there's some sort of a difference. I think that's the difference between good and great. Not all good managers have all of these traits that obviously make them great.
And I
Sorry, go
also
ahead.
add one more thing, right? Like for a like the common thinking is, hey, once you become a manager, you kind of make other people work. That's actually not the thing, right? Once you become a manager, you are still an IC. You still have some stuff to do by yourself, which you have to do. It's not just you just divide all the work and give it to different people for others to do. That's the part that kind of makes you a good manager, right? You still identify business problems to solve for, you still go after to make sure your team does what they have to do, prioritize what they have to do, and also handle the team and like make sure they get the support they need. Like once you becoming a manager doesn't mean you are no longer an IC. It's just that you still have some work to do individually by yourself.
So I would say the role of a manager essentially boils down to being a good cheerleader and good motivational speaker, right? So I think that is the biggest green flag. If you're like Shankar said, if you're able to inspire someone, that is what makes a good manager. Uh, the other one good trait or green flag that I would look for is how well you're able to articulate, communicate, and teach someone something, right? Like, and I don't mean functional skills. There are a lot of people who are either who feel underconfident. They believe that they can't do it, but they may really be good at it. Or some people who are delusional. They think they are the best, but they are very bad at it, right? How are you able to give that reality check to them without offending them, without them uh, feeling attacked, but with them actually realizing the truth, like factually? I think that is what sets a great manager apart from a good manager.
I think one other thing is the good managers I've worked with, I've always felt like they've got my back, right? If I miss something, if I like, if I don't do something in a way that I was expected to, and I mess up something, right? It doesn't happen intentionally, but it does happen once in a while. The good managers I work with know my trend, right? So they know that I work hard, they know that I care, and they give me the benefit of doubt and cover for me when I'm not around or when I make a mistake. I think that's when situations like that have happened, they've like greatly enhanced my trust on the manager. And I think they've like drastically or in a good way improved the relationship. So I think that's also one thing that good managers do. You know that they've got your back, and you don't have to keep proving to them that you are good or you work hard and things like that. I think if you have to keep proving to them, it's a red flag. Or if they've not made it clear to you that you are good at these aspects and I appreciate you for these things, I think that's a red flag for me.
Yeah, I think we spoke a lot of good stuff about managers, right? I think uh, when it comes to what you not want to see in a manager, I think unfortunately or fortunately, most of us would have had uh, a bad experience with a manager, right? If someone didn't have a bad experience with a manager, I think you are probably in that 5% of the workforce who's been lucky to have been there. But observe from them, right? If you don't like something from your manager, when you become a manager, just don't do that. That's one thing that you probably have to tell yourself. Um, like my top of mind red flag would be like not to micromanage. Right? I think in this day and world, it's just the top one thing that I would never want any manager to do. Tell them something to do, tell them like why it is important, and tell them what is the problem, but never get into the details of things. You expect them to solve a problem and they just don't even know what to do. If you have to lay it down step by step, then I think there is some mismatch in expectation itself. But yeah, micromanagement is a big red flag, if like at least for the managers that I would want to have.
I would. I'm not fighting or arguing on the side of micromanagement, but there are few employees who prefer and even ask for being micromanaged in the early phase to get that rhythm, and it helps people. So there could be some learning styles where teaching them, like, to the effect of spoon feeding may actually be helpful on the long run. So I understand the sentiment of where you are coming from, but I'm just saying there is a positive side to it also. Again, not in prolonged duration, but for early initial, like the ramp period. I would say the biggest red flag is not understanding or not being able to relate to what you bring to the table or what you like doing, right? Like, as an employee, if your manager does not know where your strengths are or where your interests are, they may not be able to utilize you to the best possible way. Having to do work that, again, everyone gets to do some parts of work that they like, some parts of work that they don't like, some parts of work that is enriching learning, some parts of work that is boring and energy draining. Being able to distribute this in a equal proportion, or at least in a proportion that doesn't overwhelm you with negative, like boring or energy draining work or uninteresting work, then uh, like, not being able to do that is a red flag.
Yeah. Um, I I think this was a good discussion. I'll probably close with this. Let's say tomorrow somebody who is an IC3 who has to make a decision between becoming an IC4 or PM4 comes up to each one of you, right? What is one thing that you will want to tell them?
I would say take a rational decision on, are you interested, or does doing the work yourself excite you? And do not stay an IC thinking that that means you don't have to talk to people. Like, an IC who cannot talk to people is the worst IC. If you want to be a PM, introspect on how much you're okay giving up things that you currently do and it taking time for somebody else to do.
In my case, I would say, like, if you've done a role for long enough and if you feel like you have something to teach, and if you feel like you can scale your impact for the org by having people around you who make who whose contributions you can bring out, right, for the benefit of the business, then I think it makes sense to try. I think you should definitely try and give it a shot. That's what I would say.
So true. I think that's the whole thing, right? If someone is kind of in the deciding stages of, hey, should I continue as an IC or no, that's more or less what we're talking about. Uh, See, one big thing is, I think all of us have established, or what we're talking about is moving into a PM role, like don't think of it as like a career advancement, right? That's not the only way to advance in career or to learn more. If your rationale is, say, I want to progress in career, so I want to become a manager, then that should not be the fundamental reason of why you want to become a manager. So analyze for yourself. Becoming a manager has very different traits that you would want to do, right? Like skills are very different. Of course, you would know the space about the work that you're doing. If you have six different people in your team with six different personalities, then you have to be six different person in your work life. That's the role of a leader. That's how you have to kind of change yourself. And there's a lot of patience that comes with the role. You have to be okay with it. Of course, there is joy in seeing people succeed. There is joy in taking pride uh, in your team doing great work. So all of that is definitely good. Think for yourself on what would interest you more. If you have all of the characteristics that would make you understand people, be more empathetic, understand your team's problems in a very holistic way, definitely go for it. If you are more like body who wants to kind of get things done faster, I think just advance as an IC, but advancing as a PM is not the statement, right? You don't advance in career and become a manager. You become a manager because you want to solve bigger problems. You can advance by being in an IC role itself.
I think that's a great note to end this discussion on. I'm pretty sure this will be super helpful for people who's trying to make this decision or will have to at least in a couple of years' time. So, anyone listening to this, hope you found the discussion relevant and enjoyable. Do subscribe to our show because we want to do a lot more of these. Keep it real, no fluff. Um, just people who have been there, done that. Sharing this with no agenda. I think that's why it resonated with people when we first put it out. So we'll continue to uh, keep doing that. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll see you in another edition of OK Boomer.
Like, share,
Thank you.
subscribe.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.